G'day, doggies fans, all things Bulldogs. It's the podcast. Another one. I think it's episode 10 or 11. Can't keep track. I've got Daine back. Hard to have him back on after I'm still filthy and dirty about the big loss on the weekend, 108-6. Newcastle over the Dogs. Anyway, we've got a bit to talk about. We're going to talk about that game. We're going to talk about what is the plan. I will respond to a couple of things that have been out there. Like to be the devil's advocate, and I am a supporter, as in my job is to support. Things are out of my control, so why dwell on them? Let's move on, try and hope the club does well. And Tavita Pangai Jr., big news coming out. Payne Huss also re-signed with the Broncos. So we're going to talk about all that stuff, and we'll go through and see who are some prop forwards that are available. And just mine and Daine's thoughts on the game and what's coming up with the game against the Raiders. We've got the team list scrolling across the bottom. G'day, Daine. How you going, mate?
Good, mate. Back again. Can't get rid of me, can you?
No, you keep ringing me at 2 a.m, making sure I'm going to put you on the next day and waking me up, mate, which is why I got big bags on me under my eyes. But
I think it was up past 12 last night. I think we were having a bit of a discussion.
Oh, mate. Bloody hell.
You sent me packing. You weren't impressed?
Oh, it's the way it goes, isn't it? You drop the fish in the water and I bite it and you just keep pulling me in and leaving me out there. It's yeah, but it makes you feel good too, mate. Yeah, I always take a good bite, as you know.
No, that's why I do it. No one else bites at me.
Proudly sponsored by Willem Powerfish. He's a champion. And what is it? American honey. I don't really drink much, but I'm going to have one tonight.
You deserve one after yesterday.
Oh, debacle. Absolute debacle. Anyway, mate, what's your thoughts on the Knights and the game on the weekend? Give me your summary in 60 seconds.
Yeah, good effort by the Knights. I think doing it, with Hastings off the field for about 60 minutes. Yeah, I thought that was a great performance. I thought the Dogs put it to them in the first 5 minutes. Got on the front foot, but yeah, once a couple of little errors come into it, and yeah, you just watch the Dogs' heads drop, and yeah, it sort of opened them up. So, but yeah, from a Knights point of view, I thought it was a good game with what they had. No Bradman Best and Hastings off. I thought they covered quite well.
And as we said, Tuala didn't let him down, did he?
Not at all. He's not real quick though, is he? He was on that treadmill.
Yeah, I think he. I don't know. He kept it together. Jake made up the ground, but yeah, that try shouldn't happen. And in my opinion, it should have. If it goes up as a try, they call it one. And also
believe think that was a try
by Preston. I've seen him give him.
I don't know what the rulings are. It's changed so much, but old school rulings, that's a try, I think. Like they've got so many, they've changed it all the time. So I literally don't know what they call a try and what they don't these days. At one stage, it was if you've just got downward pressure on the ball, and there was downward pressure on the ball, I would have been happy for that to be a try. He deserved it. He's one player that deserves a try every week.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been a 12-point turnaround in that. And if you then bring that back, it's 36-12. A team fighting for a top 4 spot that if they lose might miss the 8 versus a team that they're waiting for September, and waiting for next year. In a packed Marathon Stadium or McDonald Jones, as we always
these days.
Yeah.
The old ISC, as it was me growing up.
So, look, I think although I thought we were going to win and an ambush was on the cards in that first 5 minutes, Tavita Pangai Jr., he's gone from...
Nice run. What was it, 25-metre run or something?
Oh, the leg drive and the intent was exactly what we've needed from him. And he's done it for a few
100%.
Moments in games. He started that well in Origin, did that for about 20 minutes and then threw that offload. After 5 minutes for us, throws that offload, and then once we conceded that first try, he left, his head left the game, and I think he knows himself well enough that that it's just something he doesn't seem to be able to control, and no one can control it. So
that first try should never have happened.
Hey,
that first try should never have happened. You're playing really good. Gay guy was going nowhere. They had him covered. He just stops.
Well, I was trying to wonder why Burton could be so horrible in that situation to fall off him. And then, look, I understand kick out sliding across hard, which is why the edges. That's why the Knights players have nowhere to go because of what kick out does in defence. It's what he brings to the side that cramps up defences. You have to be able to crab back inside. And you watch all the good sides when a team like Canterbury plays them, we can't get it out to our edge. And you guys struggled to do it. You executed two great moves. Young scores that try in the corner off one of them, and there was one on the other side of the field, which were fantastically worked, executed plays by the Knights on both sides of the fields, but we were able to cover it because Kickout was in the team. The problem is Burton falls off that tackle, Kickout sliding across, and then Thompson just isn't there because and that to me come down to a coaching mistake having him start. If Harrison Edwards is there, he covers that up. But see, that's one of the things. Like you've got Kickout there bringing a strength to your edge in defence, cramping teams up. But everyone's then just got to do their job, and they didn't do it, unfortunately.
I don't think either. I think the three of them were at fault there. Burton's
of course.
Horrible attempt at a tackle. And then you've got Kickout. He just looked like it was a lazy play, and Thompson just wasn't there. And so the whole three of them you can blame for not a very good defence, a lazy defence by the three of them. And once that happened, I think then the momentum just swung instantly. That was it. Then there was a few drop balls, set restarts,
penalties,
and you put yourselves under pressure. The Knights were playing solid without being exceptional, but you just let them back into it. Because the first 5 minutes was 100%. The Dogs were dominating. I thought, here we go. This might be a bit of a game, but.
And look, and that's why then our side was then clunky as hell in attack. Couldn't get that. They were gassed after losing two players at the sin bin. You can't get any momentum, and you can throw the ball from side to side, but if you're not going forward. To be fair, Matty Burton didn't train all week, which we didn't know at the time, and he delivered his first child at midnight that night. So he would have had no sleep. We've all been there as dads ourselves. It's not to be an excuse for someone on the money that they're on, but it's a genuine reason. And I think
come into it, mate. You feel the way you feel. He's still human.
Yeah, that's
still
it.
Has the same feelings as you and I and everyone else that.
Exactly. And look, to me, it didn't look like he was there. He took a couple of cheap options with the footy, and that was a poor game all around from Matty Burton. And I don't think it was. I don't think it's because he wasn't trying. I just think he just physically and mentally was fatigued. And when you're physically and mentally fatigued, you make mistakes, you do lazy stuff, you take shortcuts, yada yada yada. And that's the same with kick out. I thought the third try, although we're down a player at that point, he's rushed out and smashed. I think it was Adam Elliott. And that was probably the good thing about the Dogs all day is that we did fold some people, and we folded more people in that game than we have in the last 8 years. So
yeah,
they were there to play. They did want to. The Newcastle boys were sore after that match. You just had to look at Adam Elliott. He got targeted and belted, and to his credit, he was still one of their best players, apart from a couple of stupid drop balls. But they were forced errors.
But you still, kick out. He went and give Elliott a hit. But by doing that, it cost you a try.
Yeah, and that was
he seen him coming, and
a mental fatigue. Yeah, a mental fatigue error.
Seen him coming, offloaded, got hit by a truck. That's it. It was like he got hit by a Mack truck. Throws the ball, opens up, and that's where the Dogs are struggling. And I've seen it multiple times on the weekend. And kick-out was bad. 3 tries through him. 2 of them were through rushing up and creating that hole. And unfortunately, your players, teams do play in that style, like Penrith, but they've got the team to cover it. They've played with him, they played with him until recent times, for a period of time. They know what he's going to do. His inside men know what he's going to do. So they can cover him for that, and they sort of allow him to play that free sort of football. Unfortunately, he's played how many games for you guys now? 4, 5?
You back?
Yeah, mate. What's he played for you? 4 or 5 games?
Yeah. Look, you're onto something there, and that will actually relate back to what the Cameron Serrato plan is. And if you watch Penrith very carefully, Martin, are you still there?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah. Oh, good, because you're cutting out. Their edges still play that way.
Yeah.
It's a style that they play, and the fact of the matter is if a player then they're cramped up on the edge, has to come back to the inside, it's about the choices they've got to make and what they're going to run into then. And who do they come back into? Cleary, who tackles like a forward, Moses Leota and James Fisher-Harris, and all the rest. They've got choices to make. They come back inside, they get crunched. The difference and just wasn't able to physically get to it. And that comes down to, I think, a bad choice at the start of the game by starting him. I think if Harrison Edwards was there, I think that game goes a lot different. I think Newcastle get there through desperation. They're a tight-knit unit. So we will talk about what I think Canterbury are doing, which is different to what they were doing and what this whole season's been about. And I will actually also discuss some important hidden stats that the media don't talk about, betting agencies don't talk about it, but if you actually go to the math, it lines up very well with who's doing well each year in this competition. But and all signs point to the Panthers and a team like the Broncos, who have invested in their juniors and kept their juniors together for many years now. What's your thoughts on the Knights? What do you do in the next few games?
What do I think? Sorry, it just cut out again.
Sorry. What do you think the Knights are going to do over the next few games? They've got, I think it's the Bunnies.
Yeah, they've got the Bunnies this week, so big game. Like I like both teams. I think the Knights are going better than the Rabbits. Depends on Hastings. I'm not too sure on his injury. I heard he'll be back.
Yeah. So typical.
But yeah, I'm not too sure on that one. I don't know how long Best is out for.
Who's that?
Not too sure. Bradman Best.
Yeah, I think he'll be a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it might be a couple of weeks. I'm not happy with the way the Rabbits are going. I think the Knights will win. I reckon it'll be 32-24 sort of score. I think both teams will score tries. I just feel the Rabbits' defence is nowhere near where it should be. Again, like I've spoke about for weeks, they just haven't gelled together. But then a team like the Rabbits, if they take off and they play their good style of football this week, they'll put a score on the Knights too. So big week, I think, for both teams to see where they're really at. You've got a team that's playing, top 4 football against a team that's playing bottom 4 football.
Well, I'll quickly go through the teams. I know it's a Bulldogs site, but who cares? This is a great game.
NRL, mate.
You've got Carlin Ponga, Dominic Young, Dane Gagai, Bradman Best is named, Greg Marju, Tyson Gamble, and Jackson Hastings. They're all named. I actually felt that Hastings was overplaying. Look, mate, since the tip drops come in, teams are now coached that anyone who lands near their legs are basically to fucking play on it. The week before
I don't think that was a genuine. I think that was a genuine pain. He was rolling around in pain.
I think he was scared because we did see his ankle twist because it's all that happened was his ankle got caught.
Yeah,
it got caught, and he had that injury last year. So
I don't like that.
He's right.
I think it was a bit of it was an unfortunate incident, really. That looked like Preston lost his footing and then sort of swung off him. I don't think it was an intentional hip drop, personally.
No, none of them are.
Well, some of them are, but that one, it just didn't look an intentional thing. It was unfortunate for both players, really. But I think under the rules, he probably had to go to the bin. I wouldn't have liked to put him in the bin under the circumstances, how they've made the rule. Did they have a choice not to? I don't think so. I think they had to.
Yeah. The way they've done it, the way they've gone about it, yes. The first time he got sin bin, which was against South Sydney, when we were making a comeback, when we had our full players on the team, on the field, he was sin binned, which one that the player was fine. But the thing I'm talking about, though, is that it's just, look, I think that's an isolated incident. I think because he was scared of damaging that ankle, it would have played.
I think he had it last year, didn't he?
Yeah. And he
had it last year.
He snapped it. So the surgery they had, they reckon, protected him from it being fully damaged, and they iced it up straight away, and probably it might be all right. But the point I'm making is that what's his name? Osako the week before against the Knights, he acts like his leg's been torn off. A player of the Knights gets sin binned, and then Osako is in the next 3 tries. And that has been a consistent theme across the season. So they're acting like fucking soccer players, like it's a world full of soccer players again, and I hate it.
There's a lot of that going around at the moment. Players getting, a little bit of a clip on the chin, and then they're staying down, get the penalty, get what they want, bob up, off they go again. I don't like it. They've made the game really soft.
Corey Herrera-Naira, he hurt his knee and then got taken off for a HIA because the Canberra Raiders were under the pump. Like, I've seen him do that 2 or 3 times. The HIA abuse hasn't been as bad this year. I think something's happened behind the scenes there where they've threatened the clubs or something, and they're watching and they're looking at it and reviewing it. If your player hasn't got a actual head contact that can be seen and goes off for a HIA, there will be a huge fine. I think they've done something because last year was horrible how teams were exploiting it. And, I remember I actually did a video on a Souths game because I watched Souths 3 weeks in a row, essentially get an extra 3 interchanges per match. It was like they were factoring it in with that. But they weren't the only club doing it, but I was watching them and saw it. Huh?
I'm telling porcupines again. Didn't happen.
Yeah, well, it did because if I do a video on it, be rest assured it's happened because I can back it up. Anyway, the Knights are at full strength. They've named a full strength side, and South Sydney. Let's look at their forward pack. Jai Arrow, who's got that back injury. Shaq Mitchell, Kalon Matangi, Jacob Host, Cameron Murray. That forward pack will not get them anywhere in the finals.
I disagree. I thought Shaq Mitchell was enormous.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's not, but he's not.
If he can play like that, the go forward in him, I think he's a little bit underrated. The player that really struggled on the weekend was Kalon Matangi. Had a really bad game, really off, mistakes, just hasn't been himself since Origin, to be honest. He's having a few bad games.
It happens. Debut Origin players, it happens all the time, man. They go flat after that period. If they can make the finals, I think he'll be one that stands up.
100%.
Yeah, Michael Cheekham's a handy player. Havili's handy. Mawali's handy. And then you got that young Tallis Duncan. Like
He's a gun.
He is a gun. They could win, no doubt. But I think it all comes down to the forward pack. When you've got Matt Croker, Jack Hetherington, Daniel Saifidi, and Kurt Mann on your bench, you've got a pretty good fucking bench. And then Elliott, Fitzgibbon, Frizzell, Thompson, Crossland, and Jacob. Now, as long as Jacob and Daniel don't start seeing who can knock the ball on the most in the game.
They've got a bit of an issue with that. They get the drops in.
They've been going all right, mate. I think they've been doing well. I'd like to have one or two of them, I can tell you that much.
There'll be a big test for both teams. Like I said, it will give you a good indicator of where both teams are at. At the moment, I think the Knights are going better. But you can't write off a team like South. They haven't clicked into gear. Whether they're going to or not is a different thing. If they click into gear, you'll probably see them deep into the finals again. But if they're going to play the football they've sort of delivered the last few weeks, I'm sorry, but they'll be lucky to make it for one, and two, if they do, they'll be out real quick. That's just my personal opinion. I think the Knights are going better. I think the Knights win.
Totola's on. Oh, sorry. Extended reserve bench for the Bunnies. Hamasele, Tavita Totola.
Okay.
So if one or two of those players come back into the fold, game on. But still, they're going to have to contribute minutes, and they're going to have to. I think they would help, but yeah. Interesting. I think the winner of this game makes the finals.
I think both teams make the finals.
If South lose this game, I think they're gone.
I don't know. I'm struggling. I can't pin them at the moment. But also, Latrell. I don't know what's going on there, but he was taped up both hands. And then after the game, shoulder was all iced up. So he's not fit, mate. And he's not playing like he's fit. He's not playing great either.
He hasn't been fit for years, mate. Which is why I laugh at Fox Sport. Which is why I had a crack at him. That in response to Phil Gould, their whole promotion was Latrell Mitchell for Super Saturday against the Sharks. And you know what they said about him? He's never been fitter. Never looked better. And he's ready to fucking rock and roll. And what happened?
He was taped up with gaffer tape all over.
He was taped up with gaffer tape.
Mate, he looked like a 1991 bloody forward. Just come out of the bloody demolition derby at old Parramatta Speedway.
It's the old Tucker's Daughter song. They build them up just to tear them down, mate. And that's exactly what happens. And what happened? Half the fan base, Latrell's full of shit,
I love when Latrell comes back after a real hard pre-season and he's had 16 meat pies every day. Every year comes back and you're like...
And they say he's never looked better. But
he's never looked better.
And it's like, it's like me looking at yourself saying, I look better when I'm put on fucking 5 kilos.
You don't know if he looks like Latrell or Shaq.
Well, Shaq Mitchell, he's another one. Look, we've got to move on. It's an All Things Bulldogs. We might have to change it to All Things NRL next year because the focus on the Dogs it can bring you down a little bit. So what are we going to talk about next?
Oh, I want to ask you something.
All right.
Where do you reckon? What's the big picture for the Dogs? What do you reckon Gus and Serrato have got in mind? What's going on there?
Oh, have you got 25 minutes? All right, I'll try and give you the quick version. For the first time in a long time, I'm seeing from Harold Matts, from Pathways, from all the games I've watched, which have been available to watch, I'm seeing that same style. I'm actually seeing the same style played in the pen. We can't hide from it. they're trying to be. Serrato can talk it as much as he wants, but he is trying to implement the Penrith style of play, not just in the NRL squad, but in the entire club, which is what they've done at Penrith. From their park football.
Didn't he come from Penrith?
Yeah, exactly. Spent years there, and he was the one who helped create their defensive system, right? And the reason, why do you think that when they shed a player like Viliami Kikau, they can then go and find one that can do just as good? If they shed a centre which has won a grand final, and then get a youngster that's never played a game of NRL, and he's actually better than the player that was before and fits straight in.
You look at last year; they won all grades last year.
All
I don't
grades.
think that's ever been done. Yeah, all grades. So if that's not telling you the depth that they've got and how much of an advantage that they've really created for themselves, it's out of control, mate.
It helps having 13,000 juniors. The Bulldogs have got 3,500. And we've just increased it by about 15, 20% in the last couple of years, which is a good sign for the Dogs. But we're sharing boundaries with all these other smaller clubs, Sharks, Dragons, Parramatta. Parramatta's got a big juniors, but they border with the Panthers. The ideal, this is the big picture, is to have over time your juniors all wanting to play for your club. And whilst that you've always got that core, it's about making that go to a next level, which is why that they've concentrated so heavily on the media, especially getting Channel 9 on board, and concentrated so heavily on their commercial side of things, because they're trying to hype it for the kids and promote heroes and stuff like that. And there's a lot of kids out there that are still, who just, we lose the game, but you know what? They're like typical loyal supporters. They blame the refs. They see it completely biased. That's what you want from your kids growing up. That's one point. You want them to say that their hero isn't, Nathan Cleary. You don't want Bulldogs kids growing up saying their hero is Nathan Cleary. You want them saying Nathan Cleary is a good player, but Matty Burton's my hero. The Fox is my hero. That's what you want your kids from your club to do. Jacob Carraz is my hero. And then when you have all those, you build those pathways. So what they've done is they've gone to New Zealand and with the Canterbury club over there.
Preston's my hero.
Yeah, Preston's my hero too.
He's my
good old I love the locks. But the mullet man. But you get all these young kids together at a young age, is where they're spending their money. Bring them together, get more and more of them competing for spots. And that's one thing. So you have these juniors, and you have them playing the same style of football that the first grade team plays, without exception. Now, the problem that we have is that our first grade team can't execute that style. And it is the Penrith style. Look, across our attack, there's elements to what I saw Mick Potter doing a lot last year, where they're swinging it. And it's sort of the West Tigers of 2005 style, where trying to get it from left to right and back again as quickly as possible and keeping ball in play, which is also saw from the Walker brothers in Ipswich. There's all this stuff that they're trying to do to create, because they haven't been effective in the other areas to get it done. In the engine room, essentially, is where we've struggled, in the middle. So that comes back to what we're talking about with Kikau as well. The Penrith Panthers play a rush style. They play a flat-out style, a speed, a power. It's speed, it's aggression, it's pressure. And they do it better than everyone.
Down.
And they just grind them to the ground.
Yeah, 100%.
If you can stay with them and you've got enough connection and cohesiveness and belief in your team, which has been rare for most sides, and can stay with them, they are vulnerable late, because they put more energy into their first 65 minutes than any other team. And the Canterbury coach has stuck to that. Now, you'll look at them and go, oh, they're busted. You've got players' wives talking about, the training's too hard, and that's affected them on game day as well. That might be fair feedback, but it's not going to stick it. The Canterbury team are continuing. It's as if he's continuing to play this style because this whole season's one big trial to see who are the players in the team that can actually do their job in these situations and do what they're told to do and to stick at it for longer periods of time because they'll get a contract. All these other players,
it's make or break for him at the moment. Who's going to, if you can't hack it, see you later.
Yeah. And
no, that's fair.
But the problem that brings us back to another stat. And there's 3 stats. It's total combined games of NRL experience, total combined games that you've played together in rep football, as in representative of your area, and the percentage of players that are developed juniors from within your club. If those 3 stats are higher than your opposition on any given week, you win over 90% of the matches against that side, right? Okay. It's mate, I'm telling you, bookmakers don't want people knowing about it. For some people, it's just an obvious thing that they can just look through the team list and go, yep, they've got them beat, easily done. But for the punter, when Souths are starting at $1.20, when they've got no forwards and they've got all these young players come in and stuff like that because they're playing a team lower down the ladder, when the real odds should be, 180, 190, that's what we're talking about there. The bookmakers don't want you to know. They want you to take the 120 on Souths. They don't want you to know that it's actually a lot closer on that game because the opposition team have got a lot of experience back this week and Souths have got a few players out with injuries. A lot of good punters and would know by reading that, but the whole punting game is designed for the person to put in $50 and bet with his mates and not really, and just sort of follow where the headlines go sort of thing. That's where they're making their money. It's not from the compulsive gamblers who gamble every week. It's from all the people they bring into it. That's where their target market is, and it's why they're going to America as well. I've gone on a bit of a tangent, but you get those 3 stats. Canterbury sit every single round. We sit about 16th or 17th in that regard compared to other teams. And it sort of lines up with what Buzz Rothfield said, that the Canterbury side in the last 3 years have turned over 67 players. If he goes back another 3 years, you'll see that it hasn't really changed, but it was similar to that as well. We also paid for $2.5 million of our what are you doing, mate?
Just trying to swap earphones over, mate. I just had a malfunction. Bear with me. Let me just grab
That's
it.
All right. Yeah.
There we go. I'm not real good at this one-handed stuff, mate.
Yeah, I'm better at that.
Yeah. You look like you know what you're doing there.
Well, I know what I'm talking about anyway. I'm not sure if anyone else does, but the fact of the matter is that until Canterbury stop turning over players, until they can get players playing games together, they're not going to improve. Now, this brings me to another point. Kickout, Burton, Salmon, and Crichton have played quite a few games together in juniors, reserve grade, and in first grade at different times. Crichton and Burton came through as juniors together. So that's going to increase the amount of games, the average amount of games that our team would have played together next year. And then you have this core group that have been together for a couple of years. It's only going to improve our chances of winning matches. And they're going to try and bring players from successful clubs. Liam Knight, in his first 2 games as a Bulldog, I rate him as 7 out of 10. First 2 games I've seen where he hasn't given away a penalty and hasn't knocked the ball on.
Yeah, I've been surprised actually at how well he's done, because that was his biggest downfall, was his errors. And
he played well on the weekend. He played well.
He's played well both times, actually. I've been impressed. He's given you that go forward. I don't think
he's a starter, though, and they're going to start him this week. They need to keep him on the bench and keep him doing what he's doing.
Yeah, Don't change what's working for him.
Exactly. Just maybe just leaving on there a bit longer each time. But
so who's he replacing this week?
Or they've put Tavita to the bench, and we'll talk about Tavita in a minute as well.
That's the other question I wanted to ask you. Is your thoughts on TPJ?
Tavita Pangai Jr. for the first 5 minutes or 4 minutes against the Knights was the best prop in the world, and did whatever. And that's exactly what we needed from him. His runs were phenomenal.
Is that why he's going boxing? Couple of few minute rounds.
They obviously can't. I think he knows himself. He can't control his brain when he lets someone down. Look, Kikau made 3 mistakes, but then still come out and tried to turn the game with his defence, by belting people and stuff.
I've seen 3 defensive mistakes. He made more mistakes than that, I think. I think it was one of his worst games, but...
Yeah, but he tried to make up for it. He didn't pack it in, whereas Tavita, he starts thinking about it and goes missing from the game, and that's what lets the whole team down. And that's why he got hooked after 14 minutes. That's why he'll never play Origin again. It's going good, and he's doing the stuff that everybody wants him to do. And then when he throws a pass and it doesn't work out. Now, for me, he threw the pass, it didn't work out. So fucking what?
Move on, let's go on again.
Move on and let's fix it on the next occasion.
So what you're saying is he can't drop it. He can't let go of mistakes.
That's right. Holds it. It's a subconscious thing, obviously, and they can't unlock it. Yeah. Now, in boxing, if you take the lazy option in the middle of that ring against someone who can hold their own,
sleepy time,
you go to sleep.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how, but maybe working for himself and working on those things and knowing that he's only letting himself down and no one else, knowing that he gets paid whether he wins or loses. There's all different stuff. The mental psychology of sport from teams to individuals is just, you could talk for days about it.
Do you think maybe he's going boxing to improve his mental?
I think that he will make money. He will make money out of it. He'll make his money.
He's going to go there and it will make him better because of the decisions and being a sport where it's an individual sport, not such a team sport. Maybe it will help. The
accountability is different.
Yeah.
And he can sit there and talk it up and play and do the Hollywood stuff. And if he doesn't prepare, doesn't do the work, and he fails on his own terms. He's not letting down 17 other players. He's not on $1 million when there's a player on $100,000 who's outperforming him on the field. There's none of that stuff. It's just a different dynamic, and I think it's just going to suit him. And he's got the right people around him and advising him to make money out of it. And I think he could. He's a type of, I think, the type of personality that he could lose a few fights and still make money out of it. People are going to watch it, and hopefully there's some good fights. I think Junior Paulo's, I think if he kept boxing when he fought Paul Gallen, if he kept boxing and turned away from Lee, I reckon he would have went really well. He's another one. I like what he did against Gallen. He just ran out of puff. But yeah, I don't mind footballers boxing.
Is he going? When's he leaving? It's not instantly.
End of this season, so that means we've got another $750,000 of our cap. To me, the dogs aren't spending all their cap. They're spending it to the minimum amount they need to spend it to, which I think is 90 or 95%. So they've got money there for when someone comes on the market.
Right.
But there's no one on the market, which is what we're going to talk about in the middle. In a minute, we're going to talk about the players that are available that we could look at.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
This is one thing that I personally struggle watching the Dogs. You've got a great winger. You know exactly what I'm going to say, don't you? Why is the ball not getting to the Fox?
My little bobblehead.
Yeah.
Where is he? He's right above my thumb there, finger.
The broken bobblehead.
Broken bobblehead.
Why the hell are they not getting the ball to the Fox? Because I can count on one hand how many times he touched the ball, and he doesn't get it in space.
Well, he's obviously he's not as effective on the right wing. Jacob Carraz is inside him, who's not getting the time and space for the ball. Look, you saw what happened in Origin 3 when they brought in players they brought in Cameron Murray, who could straighten up who runs a bit straighter than Isaiah Yeo, but passes just as good, if not better, and does his quick play the balls. You had Cody Walker on the back of that, giving the ball onto who they have, Martin and Bradman Best running two really good lines. And then Best being able to offload to the Fox, who then just does his job and scores. And you see, at South, you see Johnson do that week in, week out.
Do you know what I'd like to see?
And they do heaps of behind.
They do. You're right. I could be well out here. You know who I'd like to see in the centres for you guys? Skelton. He's got the size. He's got the speed. He's got everything there. I'd love to see him be turned into a centre and the Fox outside of him. Could you imagine that sort of formula, that formation?
I think
Skelton, the big. I think it would work because you've got a big bloke that's going to drag people in, because not one person can, you're not going to have one person tackle someone that big and that strong. You're going to need a few players that are going to be wary, so you can drag that other winger in.
Yeah.
He can offload, bang, Fox is away. I'd love to see that for next year. I'd love to see them try and work someone like Skelton. I rate him. I think he's a great footballer. I think he's going to be good.
So do I. I think
he's a centre. I reckon he's a centre to be a second rower in a couple of years. That's my prediction with him.
Yeah. Look, mate, we all love Skelton, our mate, the dog father, who's gone missing. I don't know. I think he's still hanging out with Margot.
Why wouldn't you?
Can't blame him. I think he's gone to a Slipknot concert with her. At the end of the day, the wingers are a product of what your team can do through the middle, off the play the balls, and how you get the balls out to them. It's as simple as that. I just feel he's wasted out there at the moment. Like he's just sitting out there. He's not doing a lot. And it's a shame because he is a good footballer, obviously, and he's just not been able to hit the heights that he really could because they're not getting him the ball. He's on the right edge because they've got Wilson on the left. Now, the Fox is a left-hand winger. Always has been at his best there. Freddie picked him on the right in Origin 1, backfired. Bit better in Origin 2, but really as at Suncorp, they dominated. And then in Origin 3, we all saw what happens with the Fox. We saw what he did for Australia. He's had 2 injuries this year as well, which people need to realise. But having him and Wilson on your wings, it's like having one in the same, but you're weakening. I think it's weakened our team. Like, I want either Wilson or either the Fox. So give the Fox a break and let Wilson. But Wilson dropped 2 balls on the weekend.
Yeah, that was the first.
He still has a go. They were 50.
I like him.
I like him too, mate. Don't get me wrong. And I know you don't like Burns, so we'll move past that. But the fact of the matter is
the glass man.
We need a player that can make yards on the wing. You need one that makes the yard. You need 2 yardage makers out of one of your centres and one of your wingers, and you need your fullback to be able to also do that. The style of game we play, that's what we require. We require 200 metres from our fullback. We require 200 metres from one of our wingers and big metres from one of our centres. And then the other 2 players are there to do the creative stuff and have the energy to do the fast stuff. And that's your Fox. And that's how Avarillo was used in the centres for most parts of the year.
But look at the Knights wingers on the weekend. The pair of them really, they took a lot of scripts out of dummy half when they were deep in the end. They worked pretty hard. They didn't score tries or anything like that, unfortunately. But they worked really hard.
But Wilson and the Fox aren't. Wilson and the Fox did the exact same thing, but they're not going to make those yards. They don't have that. They don't have the post contact or the leg drive.
But you've got to have someone like you're back to what you're saying. That's where a skeleton type player comes into it.
Yeah,
he's got that.
And that's what Carraz is good at. But I think Carraz got sick of being a battering ram. Paul Alamotti all year was doing that, and all he did was get criticised. A rookie running off the back.
How do you find Carraz in the centres?
Well, like any centre at Canterbury, he realises what it's like playing teams that are in form with no forward pack, no time, and not winning the ruck. He finds out how tough it is to get the ball to your outside man or to make breaks.
I thought Averillo was a bit quiet. It was
Averillo. He gets brought into the game when we get quick play the balls and are on the front foot. And he's that type of player. He's not a player who's going to turn a bad set into a good set. The only player in Canterbury that turns bad sets into good sets is the boot of Matt Burton. And I think
and vice versa.
Yeah,
you can turn a good set into a bad set too.
Well, he's had a few. He's probably had about 3 kicking errors in the last couple of weeks. But as I said, there's been reasons and excuses for it. And all
one
halves.
Last thing. I thought Marnie was better. I thought he played a good game, actually. I thought that was one of his better games he played.
I felt he kept his composure a lot better.
Yeah.
And as a captain, he questioned everything. He got in the referee's face. It didn't work, but he was there. And if he keeps being there, that's what he needs to do, because I felt that captaincy hasn't come easy for him, and I don't think he's the best communicator as well. I think for a leader, the Dogs, you either have that leader who doesn't say much but leads by example and everyone follows. You know, they go to the front line and go to war, and you just follow them into head on into battle. Or you have the one that constantly organises things. Yeah, exactly. You Cameron Murray, or you have your talker and your organiser like
Cameron Smith,
like your Cameron Smith. And look at Cameron Smith. Reid Marnie wants to be Cameron Smith. He does. I can see it. He doesn't run. He actually had a couple of good runs on the weekend. I think he was too focused trying to get the penalty. If he just ran fast and then tried to link up and play footy, we would have put him under more pressure, and probably got a 6 again or something out of it. You know what I mean? They were areas where he's running out of dummy half and running into the players being called offside.
Yeah.
But running over the advantage line and was running quite slowly and then got tackled. The plays got shut down quickly. To me, Cameron Smith would have ran there but then kept the ball going. And then made...
He also had a good team around him too, Cameron Smith.
Always. He made that team better. He's one of those players, man. He's an immortal. He's an immortal. I hate him. He's grub. He stuck his fingers in him. He's a ball grabber. He got under people's skins, but he was the greatest footballer of our time, in my opinion. Apart from Terry Lamb, that is.
Barber.
Oh, mate. Never seen a player that's... Barber had an influence on everything at Canterbury.
He even had an influence on me as a young child.
You like Barber, eh?
Nah, I hated him. Went to the ISC or marathon when I was a kid. My uncle took me. Watched Knights and Bulldogs. Oh, they destroyed the Knights. And it was Barber. Mate, I never liked him from that day on. But he was a good player.
But that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly.
You hate people because they're good.
Yeah, that's why I didn't like him, mate. I still remember it. I was about 5 or 6 year old. 7 at a push.
I hate Reece Walsh for the same reason.
Yeah.
Can't stand him. Want him to break his legs. I'll say it. I want you to break your legs.
And then if you did, you'd go, oh, mate, I feel sorry for you now.
you know me, I'd start crying about it later and feel guilty or something. I actually watched Scotty Prince snap his leg on Jamie Feeney when he was trying to charge the ball down. I was at the old Commonwealth Games Stadium, Mount Gravatt, where the Broncos used to play. And, Prince did that kick. Jamie Feeney went for the charge and snapped his leg. And the sound it made, mate.
Yeah, you always
want the Tigers and they won a grand final. So there you go.
You always want the players if you're playing or even watching, you want them to get you get that, you want to hurt them, but as soon as someone gets hurt, it's like, oh mate, you don't want that. You know what I mean? It's just that. I think that's the male mentality. Testosterone kicks in.
Yeah, you want to knock the sense into someone and then think about it later and start thinking about, their family and whatever else.
Yeah, exactly. Because
putting the shoe on the same foot.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's why I said on the sidelines, mate, we leave that stuff to the big boys.
The big boys.
We just sit here and talk about it. Although I'm a pretty big boy.
Yeah, I'm quite a small chap, but it's all
right. Mate, you pack a big punch. We know that. So, all right, this game coming up against the Raiders, I think we've chatted a lot. Raiders still got a good forward pack, still full of experience. If you use the stats that I'm looking at, games played together, they win in a canter. I think that Ricky Stewart does the things that fans love. He shows that he's as hurt and disgusted by his team's performance as the fans are, which naturally puts it onto his players. But then he's right there to defend his players when they've been dudded by bad calls and stuff and cost his club a lot of money. Bulldog, the perception that gives your fan base is a lot. You get a lot of support from your fan base when you act like that. And unfortunately, Cameron Serrato isn't that type of coach. So, and I also believe that the actual players themselves react well to it, especially in Canberra. And I think the Dogs are going to be in for a bit of a, I don't think it's going to be good for us this week. We're playing the Raiders at the right time, but at home, after being belted by 50, they were fighting for top 4. If they keep losing, they miss out on the 8 as well. So,
I reckon they will with the way they're playing. They haven't played well the last few weeks.
But
it depends on. It's hard to tell, like with your team as well. Like, if they don't get early tries, you boys will give it to them. If they start to put a few tries on, whether they're good or mistakes, that's where I find at the moment the Bulldogs are very vulnerable. You put points on them, and I swear they just said, "Oh, here we go again." That's what it looks like. You can see going over their face, "Oh, here we go again." And that mentality has obviously, stuck from getting a few defeats, which is, naturally you can understand.
I've got a name for that actually, and I saw it over the previous couple of years. It's called the Jade Knockenbore effect. Unfortunately for the young fella, every time he would drop the ball, or a try to be scored down his wing, and he's come in and made the choice to try and shut the play down. They've got around them, which is a team issue, not necessarily an individual one. It's as if the whole fan base, the whole club, across the world, whoever's watching that game, just all put their head down and go, "We're gone." And it's sort of, so I get what you're saying. And I love Jaden Knockenbore, and he's been a servant to the Bulldog on and off the field. And whether people hate him or not, that's up to them.
Your daughter loves him.
Well, he came up and he was breaking tackles, and and he was young, and he was having a crack, and until he got injured, and then that incident happened, and then it just stifled his whole development. But he's a player, and it's not just my daughter. He actually invests time in the children, And a lot of the players do it, but he's one especially and he's so well spoken and articulate. This is going back to 2019. She loved him, loved Jade. She loved Kieran as well. Kieran was very good when we beat the Gold. That's the only game she saw us win ever, was versus the Titans at the Gold Coast. And she, for the first 8 years of her life, she memorised every game we played and every score.
Really?
Yeah, she could recall it. I'd say, what was the score against this team last year? And she just tell you it and be accurate every time. So, yeah, she's got other things she focuses more heavily on now, which it's hard to keep her engaged in the Bulldogs, to be honest. That you get to a point where losing becomes derogatory, to your feelings. She's cried in games where we've lost, And that just shows what it means. And this is hope, and that's what the players need to know. I think if Tavita knew that he was making people cry and all they wanted him to do was just to do better next time and not to carry that with him, maybe we could have got something better out of him. But look, quickly, we're going to look at the players off contract just quickly. So this hasn't been updated properly, but you've got, can you hear me? Yeah. Spencer Lenu's gone to the Roosters. We went hard at him, and he would have added to that stat that I was talking about. He came through the system with Matt Burton and Stephen Crichton. They came through the system together. Jamin Salmon's the same age. It's all relative. It's all relative to what they're trying to build. But unfortunately, the Sombrero caught him. Morgan Boyle, he was linked to us a few years ago. He's played for the Titans for Manly. He's a reserve grader, big boy. But, yeah, I don't rate him. Sam Hughes, we saw a photo from his manager that he'd signed on for another year with the Dogs. Matthew Lodge has gone to the Sea Eagles. So he's done his ACL. I think McKaylee and Maroa, Tamo, Thompson, obviously. With Tavita leaving, Luke Thompson probably, this is going to suck and people aren't going to like what I've got to say here, but Luke Thompson probably gets to negotiate with a few clubs to fight for his signature, which is the amount of games he's played. I think he owes Canterbury, and he should be saying, look, if you can pay me $500,000 for 2 seasons, I'm yours. But I've got a feeling he will get offered a bit more than that to go and be able to play a little bit of hardball. And Sharon Woods, I don't think he'll ever be coming back to Canterbury. We paid Aaron Woods approximately $1.2 million over 3 years to not play for us.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because that's
coming back.
Because we'd had so much money invested in our cap on so few players, they couldn't put the rest of the team on minimum contracts and actually have the cap come under. Like, it was that diabolical, which is why they had to, shed players like that.
I'd like to see Tarek Sims go to you guys.
Yeah, well, he's another one, but he's not the middle we need. But he has experience.
He's experience, mate.
Played at some good clubs.
Just adds that little bit of experience which you sort of need and can sort of bring the next line through, you know what I mean? I don't know, just a thought.
If we could get Tarek Sims on what we're paying Corey Waddell, I'd take him. But
every day of the week.
I like Corey Waddell, but I think as a Bulldog, he's not on that much money, actually. So as a value signing, not too bad. I like Ethan Bullimore, but Bryce Cartwright's playing well at the Para. I'd say he'll be locked up by them. Brody Jones, the Knights will lock him up. He's a good one. Chris Smith won't be coming back to the Dogs, and he's had too many knee injuries, been in reserve grade at Penrith for 2 years.
Rabbitoh.
Well, Cheekham, handy player, but I I think he's been linked to the Dogs before, to be honest. Torrell Fuimaono. Now, there's one that I would entertain because he looked like he could be a world beater at the Dragons, but sort of got injured and went off the boil and hasn't really been back. So I don't know what's going on with him. Alex Seyfarth, yeah, nah. I'd take Jordan McLean on 500 grand for sure, but I don't think Jordan McLean wants to come to the Bulldogs. And the one that I like the most out of that whole group that's available, I don't know if he's still available, Warumu Greg, the big fella from Parramatta. He's not going to fix our problems next year, but a couple of years with us, he'd be an asset to our team, I believe. So there you go. Not much. Tepai Moroa, he's playing for the Storm at the moment and getting some minutes. Very good player. What do you reckon?
That's a hard one. I'd like Tarek Sims to go. I reckon he'd be a good one for you guys. Like I said, experience.
But can he play middle? We need middles, man. We've got Preston and Kikau on the edge. We've got some young fellas coming through to fill that position.
Yeah, well, he could probably play off the bench.
He'd add depth.
Definitely.
But yeah. Well, the fact of the matter is we've got 750 grand there if all these reports about Tavita are correct. I think they're only spending 90 or 95% of their cap to keep that money there for when a big fish does become available, we can have a crack. Paying us is off the market, apparently, which Gus basically said he expected that Huss would be re-signed.
So he re-signed with the Broncos.
Yeah. 3 years.
Yeah, okay.
1.2 million a year extension for 3 years till 2026. So you get that.
For that.
I think they've upped him for next year too. So 24, 25, 26.
You can have him for that.
Good player.
Yeah. Good. Well, and same as Tino. They're paying him a year now for 10 years.
1.1 10 years.
Oh, again, set his future up. Great player. But yeah.
Couple of ACLs, what's he going to do?
It takes one injury, don't it?
Well,
and it happens.
If they make finals, win a grand final, they're willing to pay that. And then there's the other side to it. In 6 years' time, if he's still playing really good football, he could be worth 1.5 million or 1.6.
Yeah, exactly.
The way,
yeah, but what's a contract these days? They can easily renegotiate and get out of it.
I'd guarantee, even though it's a long-term great contract, I bet you there's provisions in there that if the salary cap goes up, he gets more money.
100%.
Right.
It'd be all for him. It's just set his future up, really, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's what these guys do.
Massive deal, though. Like 10 years out of a player like a forward. Yeah. Well, you've seen what happened with the Rabbits and Sam Burgess. That all fell on its head.
Yeah, sure
because
did.
He got injured and there was no coming back. It wasn't because he didn't want to play or anything. It was literally an injury. Couldn't do it. So
he played in a way that busted himself. And that's what I'm worried. I'm actually worried about that with a player like Jacob Preston. To be come in as a rookie and to be carrying the team.
Yeah, he's a good player, mate.
It could take years off his career, you know.
I hope not. I don't think so, but anything can happen. I don't know. I don't know. There's something special about him.
I watched his reserve grade and I thought, you know what? He's
Rabbit, don't worry. The Rabbits know. They're watching him, mate.
He'll never go to the Rabbits, mate. He's a Bulldog for life.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I hope so. I like to see that loyalty in footballers. I like, players that stay at the same club, and I think there should be, exemptions with that to keep people loyal, because that's what brings your fans in.
He's actually a Manly junior and went to the Roosters. And Scott Woodward, the analyst, is on SEN Sports. He was on today, actually. He uses this system which identifies from their physical stuff to their beep test, to all this stuff that they do through their statistics as to who's going to be a good player in the NRL. And he was one that they went and actually headhunted. Yeah. And, yeah, we've been lucky in that sense. I don't think Dogs fans realise how lucky we've been to have a couple of young rookies come into our club and actually perform at a level higher than the people that are there on more money.
And in a losing team,
in a losing environment,
and still standing out. Like I said, I'm a Rabbits Knights supporter, and mate, I'd put him straight in. He'd be straight in.
Yeah.
Any team.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is for the Dogs, and that's the plan as well, is to, if you go through our club over the last 8 years, how many of our top 30 would get a game at all the other 17 clubs, let alone the top 4 or the top 8? And you're talking 2-3 players year on year. Fine. The reason we've had the fans are so disappointed because we had so much hope and so much hype this year by having players that would get picked in every team that they lined up for. Unfortunately, they haven't played or haven't played together.
They definitely haven't played together, yeah.
If you get them playing together for multiple weeks, you watch, things will just naturally turn around. And if they don't, that's when you sit there and you go, okay, coach, you've had your time. I'll give him as long as the club gives him, basically. But in my head, if we can have a bit more luck, keep these players on the park together, we will see less blowouts, a few more wins, and hopefully stay in the grind a bit longer for as far as finals are concerned. But finals, yeah, that's just a hype thing. That's just a hype.
No good. Next year you'll be closer again. Got some good ins next year, and keep the injuries low. It will be up around that mark again. I think so.
We'll see.
I hope so. I hope so for you.
Well, thanks, mate. I hope your teams run second last and last. No, only joking.
No, you do. You don't like the Rabbits. You've told me that personally, but that's okay. I never used to like the Bulldogs until of recent times. I've taken a bit of a liking to them because I watch them struggle, and I like to see teams come from the bottom down. I like that's just how I am. I like the underdogs, and
that's
what the Dogs are at the moment. They are the underdogs, and it was only 2014 I was playing in the grand final, Rabbits and Dogs.
It was only in 2000 that Souths were the underdogs for 25 years.
Correct.
And I marched for South Sydney, mate. So the hatred
doesn't mean you like them.
I love rugby league, and I have a ranking system. I have a ranking system. If the Bulldogs are playing you, I hate your guts, and I want all your players to break their legs. But if teams are playing each other, I look at it and go, and I think a lot of people do the same thing, but any team playing the Broncos, I want them to beat the Broncos unless I need the Broncos to win for Canterbury to be in the chance for finals or something.
I'm a bit like that. I got the teams that I dislike, but I watch every game at the moment.
South sit in the middle for me, to be honest, in the middle when I rank them against other sides.
You like the Knights, though, don't you?
I always had a soft spot for the Knights. I've always liked that I love that they've produced a lot of juniors, that they've always had tough, hardened individuals. They've got a good, tough local comp. And I
spent a bit of time in Newcastle too.
Spent a bit of time there, back and forth. But yeah, good place, good area. I fit in well there.
You look
bunch
good.
Of bargains.
Look good here, mate. Look good.
But I'll tell you what, I love where I live in Brisbane, mate. I live in paradise, and I need to get I need to get out there into paradise a bit more because, that winter body is starting to get a bit out of control. But anyway, mate, we're supposed to go for 39 minutes. We've gone for 69, so now it'll be 70. Anything else you got?
No, mate. No, just all the best on the weekend against the Raiders.
Well, good luck to you, mate. Hope you have a draw. Souths and Knights.
Well, one of my teams is going to win, and I've always sat on the fence with them, and I've went, who needs the points most? Well, at the moment,
they both do.
They both do. I probably got a little bit of probably the Rabbits are my number one. Knights will be a very, very close second. So I think the Rabbits need the points, but so do the Knights. So this one's a tough one personally for me to figure out. But hopefully you guys can get a win. That might make things a bit easier later on for us as well. Knocking off, what are they now? They 5th or 6th, Canberra. If you can knock them off, their finals are in trouble.
Yeah.
That's the beauty about this comp at the moment.
Yeah.
It's not settled. The top 2 are settled. Apart from that, it's pretty close. Yeah. And even a team like the Dogs, they're not really that far out. A couple of them, games that were, you could have possibly won. Like, you're sitting up there as well.
Yeah.
That's the beauty about this comp at the moment. You don't know who's going to be in the finals. And what are we, 3 weeks out?
There you go. Look, to be honest, a draw between the Knights and the Bunnies is like a win for both sides.
Yeah, to be honest,
it wouldn't harm them too much, and definitely wouldn't harm them, is what I'm saying.
No.
And the Knights have got a big hand in their for and against playing the Bulldogs twice within 6 weeks. So, all right, mate. Let's finish it up.
All right, mate.
I'll chat to you soon. You too, mate.
Later.
Talk to you later.
Bye, mate.
Go the Dogs. Thanks, everyone.